Today's class, we will discuss it what is meant by dichrometry and what are dichrometric titrations, what are the substance which we have to use it in dichrometric titrations, and how can we perform the dichrometric titrations, like how we perform in the permanganometry titrations which we discussed yesterday, that which we can discuss it in today's class. Dichrometry titrations, what are the substance which we have to use it in dichrometry, and what are the indicators, how we can perform, and what is the procedure which is involved in dichrometric titrations, that which we can discuss it in today's class. Okay. So what are dichrometric titrations are nothing but where we can use it potassium dichromate as one of the substance, that is generally it is a reducing agent, either reducing or oxidizing, depends on the compound, what we have to find out it. So what we discussed for permanganometry, potassium permanganate, which works as a powerful oxidizing agent. So we should determine the reducing agents like ferrous sulfate or oxalates or oxalic acid, which we discussed in the study. So for permanganometry, that is potassium dichrometry, potassium dichromate, how can it works it? Whether it is a oxidizing agent or reducing agent, what are the indicators which we have to use it in that dichrometric titrations, that and all which we can discuss it in today's class. Okay. So in general, in potassium permanganometry, we are not supposed to use any indicator because potassium permanganate itself works as a self-indicator. But in case of dichrometry, we have to use it one indicator. What are the indicators which we have to use it? In like potassium permanganate, that is in the permanganometric titrations, KMnO4 acts as an oxidizing agent. In the same way, potassium dichromate also act as an oxidizing agent basically, most of the cases. So we should determine the reducing agents like ferrous sulfate or any other substance like oxalates. We're using dichrometry or permanganometry, we can determine the ferrous sulfate or oxalate, oxalic acid, everything we can find out. Okay. Someone's sound it's disturbing. Kalpana, make it unmute yourself. Is the voice is clear, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Is it audible or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next, potassium dichrometric titration. So wherever if we use one substance as a potassium dichromate, that is K2Cr2O7, then such a type of titrations which we can call it as a dichrometric titrations, potassium dichromate, as if we use as an oxidizing agent or one of the substance. So generally which we can call it as a dichrometric titrations or potassium dichrometry titrations generally. Like permanganometry titrations, potassium permanganate which we are using. In dichrometric titrations, potassium dichromate which we have to use. See, what are the titrations? Potassium dichromate, like potassium permanganate, is commonly employed as an oxidizing agent. So same as potassium permanganate, potassium dichromate is also used as a oxidizing agent. Although it is less powerful oxidizing agent than potassium permanganate KMnO4, but it has some advantages over the latter. So actually, if you compare the oxidizing nature or oxidizing capacity of KMnO4 with potassium dichromate, potassium permanganate is a powerful oxidizing agent compared to potassium dichromate. Even though it is having less oxidizing power, but it has some advantages as compared to the potassium permanganate. What are that advantages? Why we have to use it potassium dichromate? Basically, that which we have to see. So what are the main advantages of potassium dichromate? 1 second. Writing problem. Okay. So it's a good primary standard substance available in pure state. So main advantage of potassium dichromate is it is used as a primary standard substance. Potassium permanganate, which we are not supposed to use as a primary standard substance. Generally, primary standard substance and secondary standard substance, what are the properties which we discussed in the previous classes? Primary standard substance, that must be not supposed to decompose easily. That must be available in a pure state. It is not supposed to be a hygroscopic substance. That means it is not supposed to accept, or it is not supposed to react with water which is present in the atmosphere. Such a properties, if it is having, then it is a primary standard substance. So such a property as potassium dichromate, which is having compared to potassium permanganate. Even though it is a less oxidizing agent compared to potassium permanganate, we are using potassium dichromate as an oxidizing agent. Why? Means there are some advantages if we use potassium dichromate as an oxidizing agent compared to potassium permanganate. First one is it is used as a primary standard substance which is available in a pure state. Potassium dichromate is available in a pure state, but in case of potassium permanganate, which is not available. That is the first advantage. Second one is the potassium dichromate solution can be prepared by direct weighting. It is easily soluble in water. We can prepare the potassium dichromate solution simply by weighing the substance directly, and then it is easily soluble in water. Potassium permanganate directly, it is not supposed to soluble in water. Simply we should add 1 or 2 drops of either sulfuric acid or HCl. Generally, sulfuric acid which we have to add it to dissolve in water. So potassium dichromate completely, which is easily soluble in water. That is the second advantage. Next, potassium dichromate solution is very stable and does not decompose even or long standing. So one more thing, which is more important thing, is potassium dichromate. Once we prepare it, which is a very stable solution, that solution is, if you are not used to some time, then also it's not supposed to decompose. So it won't be decomposed, even though we stay the solution for a long time. If you leave it for 1 day or 2 days or 1 month also, there's no reaction takes place, or decomposition of potassium dichromate won't be takes place. But in case of potassium permanganate, which is an oxidizing agent, so very easily it can capture the oxygen from the atmosphere. So it can be converted as another substance, so that it is not possible to store for a long time. And it is not available in a pure state. Then only it is possible to get to prepare as a primary standard substance. But potassium permanganate, which is not possible. That is one more important advantage for dichromate compared to permanganate. It is easily reduced at room temperature to green colored chromium salts. And when we are going to titrate the solutions with potassium dichromate against any reducing agent, it can be easily converted into, at ordinary room temperature also, it can convert into a green colored chromium substance, chromium compounds. In general, in potassium permanganate, for example, if you want to find out it, or if you want to estimate the oxalate salts, we have to heat the substance. Then the temperature, at a high temperature only the reaction takes place between oxalate and potassium permanganate. For ferrous, it is not supposed to be heated. Simply ordinary room temperature also it can work it. But for that oxalates, if you want to find out it, either oxalic acid or oxalates with KMnO4, we have to maintain a high temperature. So in ordinary room temperature or in simple room temperature also, potassium dichromate simply it can undergo reaction with another reducing agent. So it can be converted as a green color chromium salts. That is one more important property. Next, the solution of potassium dichromate is very little affected by the rubber, and this facilitates the use of period fitted even with a rubber tubing and a pinch box. This is more important thing. In the precautions, whatever we have to take when we have to perform a titrations against, that is in the redox titrations with potassium permanganate against ferrous sulfate or oxalic acid or oxalates. Yesterday, what we discussed, we have mentioned some important precautions which we have to take. Out of that, one important thing which we have to remember is we are not supposed to use rubber or a plastic corks for a burette. We have to use it glass burettes only for potassium permanganate, which I discussed in yesterday's class. Why? Means as it is a powerful oxidizing agent, it can react with the plastic, which is built with the for burette, or a rubber cork, which we can use it for a titrating flask, which is ready to react with the potassium permanganate because of its high oxidizing nature. It's a powerful oxidizing nature. So we should avoid that. Always we have to prefer glass burettes or a glass stopcocks or a glass titrating flasks, which we have to use it for KMnO4 titrations or permanganometry titrations, which we discussed in the study. So potassium dichromate, which is not supposed to react, or which it doesn't have any effect with plastic or rubber. Even though we used plastic burates or rubber corks or a pinch of corks in the titrating flask, there is no effect with potassium dichromate. So we can easily use plastic burates for potassium dichromate. So because of such a important advantages what we are having for potassium dichromate, generally we can use it dichromatic titrations. Preferably, if it can act as an oxidizing agent, but the oxidizing nature is less compared to the potassium permanganate. Wherever it is possible, we can use it dichromatic titrations instead of permanganometric titrations. So for permanganometric titrations, we have to take some precautions in the when we perform a titrations. But such a type of precautions no need to take care of our dichromate, because of it is a primary standard substance, and the weighing of a substance is easy, which is easily soluble in water, and it doesn't react with, or it does not decompose even though we store the solution for a long time. It can react with very easily, it can undergo the reaction, it converts into a green colored chromium salts. And most important point which we have to remember, it doesn't have any reaction weight. There's no effect on plastic burates or plastic corks if you use it in the titration for dichromatry. This is more important thing which we have to remember it. Next, how can we calculate the potassium dichromate equivalent weight? Generally, where we have to use it equivalent weight means, if you want to find out it the normality, then we have to find out it the equivalent weight. Molarity, per molarity, no need to find out it the equivalent weights. If you want to find out it the normality of a substance, that means if you are going to express the concentration of the substance for a dichrometry or permanganometry, potassium permanganate or potassium dichromate, if you want to express the concentration of the substance in terms of a normality, then we have to find out it the equivalent weight. Otherwise, no need to find out it the equivalent weights. Generally, we can use it either molarity or normality to estimate or to determine the weight of the reducing agent substance. So for dichrometry, generally if we use for normality, then we have to find out it the equivalent weight. Generally, equivalent weight, how can we calculate it? Molecular weight or molecular mass by oxidation state of it. For example, if it is an acid, what is the number of H plus ions, how many it is going to be released? That means nothing but basicity of an acid. If it is a base, how many number of OH minus ions as it can be released? That is nothing but acidity of a base. Or if it is a reducing agent, what is the oxidation state which is going to be decreased in that particular chemical reaction? Or if it is a reducing agent, what is the oxidation state which is going to be increased in the particular chemical reaction? So difference in the oxidation state, if we divide with molecular mass, then which we can get it the equivalent mass of any particular substance, whether it may be a dichromate or permanganate or oxalic acid, whatever it may be. Simply, how can we find out it the equivalent weight for a particular substance is, whether it may be a salt, acid, base, what is that? First, we should find out it. In general, if it is some substance, that is, it's just like a salt. If it undergoes a reaction or if it is involved in the redox reactions, then we have to find out it what are the substance which is going to be formed. Find out the oxidation state of the compound whose equivalent weight you are going to be find out it. That compounds at oxidation state. In both the cases, we have to find out it the equivalent weight. Generally, we should find out it the oxidation state, whether it is going to be increased or it is going to be decreased, that which we have to find out it. So if it is increased, then screen share avutundamma. Hello? Hello? Manisha? హలో స్క్రీన్ షేర్ అవుతుందా? Did you get the screen or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What yes sir? రెండిటికి ఎస్ అంటే అవుతుందా లేదా చెప్పండి. ఎస్ అంటే
Share out.
షేర్ అవుతుందా?
అవుతుంది ma'am.
Okay, so in this reaction for potassium dichromate, if you want to find out its equivalent, what we have to do is simply we should find out it the oxidation state for potassium dichromate in the reactants, and in the same way in the products also we have to find out it first. What is the difference? One reaction must be one compound which has to be converted as another. One must be an oxidation reaction and another must be a reduction reaction generally, as it is a redox titrations in general. So oxidation state difference which we have to find out it. If potassium dichromate, it has to be converted as chromium sulfate as an oxidizing agent generally. So the oxidation state of chromium, you should find out it in both the cases, potassium dichromate and chromium sulfate. What is the oxidation state? The difference in these two compounds oxidation state, which we have to be treated as oxidation number or oxidation state when we are going to find out it the equivalent weight of a potassium dichromate. So in this case, you have to find out it oxidation state, the difference in this oxidation state. One is in potassium dichromate and another one is chromium sulfate. The difference in that oxidation state is 6. So that we have to find out it the value of equivalent mass or equivalent weight of potassium dichromate by simply dividing the molecular mass with 6. That is simply with this ionic or ionic equation also we can represent it as 6 electrons which is used for the conversion of potassium dichromate as a chromium. This is the ionic equation. Both this is for molecular equation. In this also, which we can get it from this, if you remove K plus 2K plus, then it converts as Cr2O7 2 minus. So this is the ionic representation for the same equation. So in this, we have to use it 6 electrons. So we have to divide the molecular mass with 6. So equivalent weight of potassium dichromate is molecular mass by 6. How many number of electrons which is used or difference in the oxidation state, that with that number you should divide when you want to find out it for equivalent mass of any substance in general. For dichromate, in this case, it is using 6 electrons, so that we have to divide that with 6. So molecular mass of potassium dichromate is 294. So 294 by 6, that is nothing but 49. If you are going to express the concentration of potassium dichromate in dichromatic titrations in terms of normality, then only needs to find out its equivalent mass or equivalent weight. Otherwise, no need. But you should know how to calculate the equivalent mass of a substance. Sometimes we don't know in what way we have to express the concentration. Generally, molarity, otherwise normality. There is the only two terms which we can use it generally. So if you molarity, we know already, weight by molecular weight, that is number of moles we have to calculate it. We should find out it the molarity. But normality, if you want to find out it normality, we have to maintain mass by equivalent weight. Weight of the substance by equivalent weight of the substance, not the molecular mass. So that we have to know how to calculate the equivalent weight. So that is which we know that how can we calculate, we find out it. Next, what are the different types of indicators? Generally, indicators are different types. Some may be works as external indicators and another must be internal indicators based on nature of the indicator, like how we use KMnO4 as self-indicator. Internally, it can work as an indicator. That is, external indicator means we have to use it the substance externally to act as an indicator. So what are the two types of indicators? There are two types of indicators used in potassium dichromatic titrations. Basically, the two types which we can use in potassium dichromatic titrations. One is external indicator and another one is the internal indicator. What is external indicator? Potassium ferrocyanide is used as an external indicator. Its use as an indicator is based on the fact that It gives blue color with ferrous salts, but no blue color with ferric salts. So one is external indicator, generally potassium ferrocyanide, which we have to use it as a external indicator for potassium dichromatic titrations or simply dichrometric titrations. What is the nature of that external indicator which we are using as a potassium ferrocyanide in potassium dichrometric titrations is potassium ferrocyanide with ferrous salts only, it can give a specific blue color. If it converts into a ferric salts, there is no blue color for that. That is the nature of potassium ferrocyanide, which can be used as an external indicator for dichrometric titrations. See, 2K3FeCN6 type potassium ferrocyanide plus ferrous sulfate 3FeSO4 gives rise to ferrous hexacyanoferrous ferric salt. This is blue complex plus potassium sulfate, and 3Fe2 plus 2FeCN6 times thrice gives rise to Fe3FeCN6 times twice. This is for if ferrous salts are there, that salt only can react with potassium ferrocyanide, which shows a blue complex. If it is a ferric salt, then we won't get any blue color. See, here it is ferrous sulfate, which we are using FeSO4, so we can expect it a blue complex or blue color solution. That is a complex compound which is formed. Same thing, Fe2 plus, this is in the ionic form which we are going to be represented. Fe plus, that is ferrous salt. Ferric is Fe3 plus. If it is Fe3 plus in dichrometric titrations, we won't get any blue color solution, or blue complex won't be formed with potassium ferrocyanide. That is main thing. Generally, how can we prepare, that is very important. 0.1% solution of this indicator is prepared fresh. That is potassium ferrocyanide indicator, we have to prepare it freshly. Few drops of this indicator are placed on a glazed white tile, and a drop of oxidized solution is taken out of titration flask by means of a glass rod and touched with the drop of the indicator. So how can we have to prepare the solution with freshly? Why means potassium ferrocyanide, which is a ferrous, which is readily undergoes oxidation when it is exposed to air, which converts as a ferric. If it converts as a ferric, then we won't get any blue color solution. So that only we have to prepare it freshly. That too, that indicator we have to use it directly. We are not supposed to add 1 or 2 drops of an indicator for this. Simply we should touch the indicator with a glass rod, that which we have to dip it in the titration flask. How can we touch it? Means from the prepared, that is freshly prepared solution, we should take a small amount on a white glass tile. From that we have to take a 1 drop with the glass rod, that solution which can act as an indicator in this case. The end point is no blue color or no change in the color of the indicator. But the use of this indicator is less in practice now, as the use of internal indicator gives better and more accurate results. So generally, directly, if you add a freshly prepared potassium ferrocyanide as an external indicator, if it is a ferrous salt, then we can get it a blue complex. But instead of that, if we are using, not using directly as an indicator, simply we have to take the indicator in a tile, dip the glass rod or touch the glass rod with that tile, that is wherever indicator is there, that we have to keep it in a titrating flask. Then we should observe it. In the meanwhile, when we are going to be transfer the indicator from the glass tile through a glass rod into a titration flask, oxidation reaction takes place in that indicator. In potassium ferrocyanide, it's in the form of a Fe+3, so that we won't get any blue color. Actually, Fe+2 state, if it is there, then only we can get it. But within a fraction, whenever it is exposed to air, immediately oxidation reaction takes place for ferrous to ferric, so that we won't get any color for ferric salts when, even though we add an indicator. Generally, to avoid such a problems, most of the cases right now, these external indicators are not using. Because internal indicators, whatever we are using for dichromatic titrations, they are working very effectively, so that we have to use it internal indicator instead of external indicators. The only external indicator which we can use it for potassium dichromatic or dichromatic titrations is only potassium ferrocyanide. Because of that oxidation reaction, whatever it is going to be performed, whenever we are going to be transfer the indicator from tile or from a bottle to the titration flask, meanwhile itself it undergoes oxidation, so that we won't get any blue color. So to avoid such, we are not using the external indicator nowadays. Then what about the internal indicators? More commonly used internal indicators are N-phenyl anthranilic acid, 1% solution of diphenylamine in concentrated sulfuric acid, and 1% solution of diphenyl benzidine in concentrated sulfuric acid. All the three which we can use it for a internal indicators for dichromatic titrations. Most of the cases, for our practical purpose, 1% solution of diphenylamine in concentrated sulfuric acid, which we can use it in the laboratory, which is available in the liquid state in the market also. Simply we should bring that solution and then we can use it as an indicator. The remaining two also we can prepare it, phenylanthranilic acid and diphenyl benzidine also. But most of the cases in our, according to our syllabus, the only indicator which we can use it is diphenylamine in concentrated sulfuric acid. That which we have to dissolve in concentrated sulfuric acid actually. So how can we prepare that is C. N-phenyl anthranilic acid gives green to violet, while other two indicators give bluish green to purple or blue violet at their respective endpoints. So what is the endpoint for this internal indicators is N-phenyl anthranilic acid, which gives green color to, that means before titration green color, endpoint violet red, that is. And for the remaining two, that is diphenylamine and diphenyl benzidine, that two indicators, what is the color means before the titrations bluish green color, that is actual blue. Bluish green is dark blue. When we mixed that green, that is the color actually which we have to get it for that. After the titration, that is at the end point, we can observe purple or blue violet. That is nothing but blackberry ఉంటుంది కదా, నేరేడు పండు అంటాం కదా మనము, అలాంటి కలర్ వస్తుంది దానికి. అది ఎండ్ పాయింట్, దట్ ఈస్ బ్లూ వైలెట్, బ్లూయిష్ వైలెట్. ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ బ్లూ అండ్ ఇట్స్ కంప్లీట్లీ ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఎ పర్పుల్. సేమ్ నేరేడు పండు డార్క్ కలర్ లో ఎలా ఉంటుందో అలాంటి కలరే ఉంటుంది ఎండ్ పాయింట్. దట్ ఈస్ ఫర్ N-phenyl amine or N-phenyl benzidine. If we use as an indicator for dichromatic titration, that is the end point. Based on the compound, whatever we are going to be used as a reducing agent. But more commonly used indicator is N-phenyl anthranilic acid, which is prepared by dissolving about 3.25 grams in 12 ml of 0.1 and sodium hydroxide. We can prepare in two ways. One is simply we have to dissolve diphenylamine, N-phenyl anthranilic acid in 3.25 grams of N-phenyl anthranilic acid in 12 ml of 0.1 m concentrated sodium hydroxide, or same 3.25 grams of N-phenyl anthranilic acid in 5% sodium carbonate. We can prepare anyway. And diluting the contents to about 250 ml with distilled water. First, we should dissolve in particular volume. Then we have to make up that into a 250 ml standard flask. That means you have to add the remaining volume with a distilled water. Then that is nothing but a diphenyl anthranilic acid, which can work as an indicator for dichromatic titrations. In case of diphenylamine and diphenyl benzidine, syrupy phosphoric acid is also added. So instead of N-phenyl anthranilic acid, if we want to use diphenylamine and diphenyl benzidine as an indicators for dichromatic titrations, when we are going to prepare with the same way, we have to prepare it. Along with that, means sulfuric acid we have to dissolve for diphenylamine and diphenyl benzidine, not in sodium hydroxide and sodium carbonate. For N-phenyl anthranilic acid, we have to dissolve in sodium hydroxide or sodium carbonate. Diphenylamine or diphenylbenzidine indicators, we have to dissolve in sulfuric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid. Along with that concentrated sulfuric acid, we should add 2 to 3 ml of phosphoric acid also for that indicator. Then only we can get such a type of colors for the titrations. N-phenyl anthranilic acid is preferred to the other two indicators because it's comparatively cheaper. Cost-wise, it's very cheap. The end point is short. It avoids the use of phosphoric acid. So, for dichromatic titrations, generally we can use 3 internal indicators. One is N-phenyl anthranilic acid. Second one is diphenylamine in concentrated sulfuric acid. Third one is diphenylbenzidine in concentrated sulfuric acid. How can we prepare that solutions? Is for N-phenyl anthranilic acid, we have to dissolve 3.25 grams in 12 ml of 1.1 and sodium hydroxide or 3.25 grams of N-phenyl anthranilic acid in 12 ml of 5% sodium carbonate. We have to dissolve it first, then add 250 ml of water to that. Then it is now it is ready for the indicator. That is for N-phenyl anthranilic acid. And for N-phenylamine and diphenylbenzidine, how can we prepare? Means simply we have to dissolve in sulfuric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid. Along with, once we prepare it, to that diphenylamine, we should add some 2 or 3 ml of phosphoric acid also for diphenylamine and diphenylbenzidine indicators when we are going to use as a internal indicators in dichromatic titrations. So if you compare all the 3 indicators, N-phenyl anthranilic acid, diphenylamine and diphenylbenzidine, N-phenyl anthranilic acid is very good compared to the remaining 3. Why? Means cost-wise, the compound N-phenyl anthranilic acid is cheap as compared to diphenylamine and diphenylbenzidine. Second one is the end point, which we can observe it at a sharp end point. That means color change we can observe, it's very clear. And regarding these two, it's when we observe blue color at the end point also, it's only violet or purple color. The change that is not at all sharp for diphenylamine. Even in the practical also, it's somewhat tough for diphenylamine. And one more thing is for N-phenyl anthranilic acid, no need to use phosphoric acid. But for remaining 2, we have to use it phosphoric acid also. That is the main advantages of N-phenyl anthranilic acid if you use an internal indicator. That is. Next. What are the general instructions for potassium dichromatic titrations? Always take potassium dichromate solution in burette, like K-MnO4. Same. Read the upper meniscus while taking burette readings because potassium dichromate is colored, orange color itself. Red, yellowish orange, actually, it's not complete yellow, complete orange. It's a yellowish orange which we can tell. Because as it is a color solution, so we are unable to find out the lower meniscus for color solutions. So we should mark it as a upper meniscus which has to be touched with the 0 mark in period. That is the second thing. Potassium dichromate acts as an oxidizing agent in acidic medium. Therefore, always add dilute sulfuric acid in the reducing agent, that is ferrosulfate. So it can act as an oxidizing agent. That too, in presence of a sulfuric acid only, it can act as an oxidizing agent. So that part, in any titrating agent, that means in a reducing agent like ferrosulfate or oxalic acid or oxalates, we have to add dilute sulfuric acid before we are going to perform the titrations. Heating of flask is not required in titrations involving oxidations of ferrous 2+ ions alone. However, for oxalate and tartarates, heating is necessary. So ordinary room temperature itself, directly we can estimate the ferrous ion using dichrometry. Instead of ferrous, if you want to find out it for oxalates or tartarates, then we have to heat the solutions in presence of sulfuric acid only, because in presence of sulfuric acid only, potassium dichromate can act as an oxidizing agent. So that in the acidic medium, basically the acidic medium, why we are not supposed to use nitric acid and HCl, which we discussed in the previous class for potassium permanganate, same thing is applicable for potassium dichromate also. Add potassium dichromate from burette in regular intervals with constant shaking of the flask. So when we are going to perform the titrations, we have to add drop by drop. That means regularly we have to add it. with the same volume of a solution. And then whenever we are going to add, we have to shake continually the flask. That are the main instructions which we have to follow the potassium dichromatic titrations. Same, whatever we have studied, that is similar for KMnO4 also. Permanganometric titrations also. Both are same. Next, how can we perform the procedure? The same thing, which is similar with the potassium permanganate. How we have performed the procedure for potassium permanganate, which I discussed in yesterday's class. We should take the KMnO4 in burette, take ferrous sulfate in the conical flask, add 20 ml of sulfuric acid, titrate against A with KMnO4. Appearance of pink color, because it's a self-indicator. Potassium permanganate itself is a self-indicator. So appearance of permanent pink color is the end point. Stop the burette curve and then measure the volume, how much it is utilized. Take the 3 concurrent readings. Out of 3, how many, if any 2 is equal, that value which we have to read it to the volume of potassium permanganate, how much is it is utilized for the titration of ferrous sulfate, that which we discussed yesterday. Instead of potassium permanganate, we have to take it as potassium dichromate here. Same, take the potassium dichromate in burette and take the 20 ml of ferrous sulfate solution in conical flask or titrating flask, add 20 ml of sulfuric acid, and then add indicator. In that case, in permanganometry, KMnO4 itself acts as a self-indicator. No need to add indicator. But in case of potassium dichromate, we should add an indicator. Generally, we can prefer in the laboratory diphenylamine as the indicator, which we can use it in the general laboratories. In our practical labs, in our college also, we can use it diphenylamine. So when we add 1 or 2 drops of diphenylamine to the ferrous sulfate solution, immediately we can observe blue color. Then titrate against with potassium permanganate or potassium dichromate. Whenever we observe a purple color or a bluish violet color, then it stops the burette curve. Then find out it the volume, how much it is utilized. Same tabular form which we have to draw it. Serial number, volume of potassium ferrous sulfate solution in milliliters, burette readings initial and final, volume of potassium dichromate utilized for the titration of ferrous sulfate solution. First 20 ml initial burette reading 0.0, that is initial value, because we have to fill the burette up to 0. Then final reading, for example, for a 20 ml of ferrous sulfate, if it is used 18.5 ml of ferrous sulfate potassium dichromate, then we have to mark it as 18.5. So volume of potassium dichromate which is utilized is final minus initial, so 18.5. Once again, we have to repeat the same process by simply cleaning the conical flask with first ordinary tap water, then distilled water. Now we have to pipette out to 20 ml ferrous sulfate solution. Add sulfuric acid. As we are using diphenylamine indicator, so we have to add 1 or 2 ml of phosphoric acid to the solution. When we are preparing diphenylamine, at that time we have to add phosphoric acid, or simply we should add now itself. Both the cases it can work. So first blue color appears, titrate against potassium dichromate, 1 more reading which we have to take it. Like that we have to find out the K first volume. From the volume, M value we have to find out it. From the molarity, we have to find out it the weight of the ferrous sulfate. Same thing both for KMnO4 and potassium dichromate. Both are same. Both are included in your second semester practical that I will post you afterwards regarding practical notes. Okay. Next, iodometry titrations, water iodometry. Tomorrow's class we will discuss it. Okay, na?
Madam, in internal exam, whole syllabus will there, ma'am?
Whole syllabus only, ma, internal. Single internal only, no. I will give you some important questions for internals. 5 important.